I'm the president of the Orcas Island Garden Club. We're pleased to have all of you here today. I think we're going to have a delightful program full of gorgeous creations by Emmy and some wonderful ideas for our own decorating for this season. So enjoy the program. I'll turn this over to Dixie now.
Good morning, gardeners, on this beautiful San Juan Islands winter day. I'm really grateful that it's such a beautiful day because after Emmy's presentation, I could actually go out and forage in the forest and try to make something. That'll be fun. So welcome, Lopez gardeners. I see there are a number of you there. So let's hand this program right over to Lena, and she can introduce Emmy.
Thank you, Dixie. Thank you, Nita. I'm really delighted to be introducing Emmy. Before I do that, my usual little housekeeping. For the best listening and viewing experience during the presentation, keep your mic muted, turn off your personal video, and select speaker view. To ask questions or make comments, use the chat feature. And as always, we're so thankful to our Orcas Library for their support. Our wonderful librarian, Carol DePagny, will monitor chat, and she's going to organize the questions and comments that you submit for Emmy, and Emmy will answer and respond to those at the end. It's my pleasure to introduce Emmy Gran. I'm glad to say that she's a member of the Orcas Garden Club. Emmy is also a kindergarten teacher at Salmonberry School, and she is also former florist, owner of Fabled Flora on Orcas Island. Busy woman. I have thought of Emmy many times when enjoying bouquets she made and sold through Fabled Flora. Emmy is committed to stewarding the land through no-till and regenerative farming practices. And Robin Wall Kimmerer's statement, "To love a place is not enough. We must find ways to heal it," guides Emmy's work. Emmy's arrangements grace island weddings and are available at Lum's Farm Stand from July through October. Emmy, we're very much looking forward to your presentation and demonstrations this morning. Welcome.
Thank you so much. Can everyone hear me? Does it sound good? Okay. Super happy to be here. I was just telling Lena and everyone who was here earlier that I'm used to teaching kindergartners. So they are much more challenging group of students. So this is just like, what a joy. So yes, I love making wreaths. I love this time of year when the garden is finally sort of put to bed, and we can just kind of have some fun and do some foraging. I also grow a lot of flowers to dry, specifically for wreath making. So you may not have access to things like that right now. That's okay. There's so many beautiful things available on our island. It just is remarkable to me. So, okay, let's get started. I would say that today we're going to focus on the classic door wreath. There's one example. It's not quite finished, but and you want to sort of begin by thinking about what size door or where you want to put it, because that will dictate the size that you want to make it. This one is sort of a typical 12-inch in diameter in terms of the wire, but it will be a little bit wider when the greenery is on it. That fits most doors, but you know, if you have a much bigger door, you can do a bigger diameter wreath. You know, they really make a big statement if they're like big and luscious on your door, but I think 12 inches fits most doors easily. And then, you know, when it comes to the base of the wreath, there's lots of options. If you go to like a craft store, I don't know if you can see this, or you can buy them online. They're like really cheap. I happened to buy this one at Joann Fabrics. I was there in Seattle, but these are really easy. They're wire. You can reuse them every year. You know, if you're thoughtful about it, you can buy one and use it every year. If you like to go the more natural route, there are all kinds of options. This is actually a dried flower wreath that I made, but if you can look at the back, that is that's grapevine, which makes a great base. It's a little narrower. I could have probably put a few more bits on there. This is nice because it's just a wide area to put things on. But grapevine works wonderfully. So does kiwi. So does willow. The only thing about that is that, you know, if you're wanting to harvest it, like you would need to sort of think about that a little bit ahead of time, because usually when you're pruning things back like grapevine, it's not happening quite yet. At least that's my understanding. I usually prune those things sort of like in late winter, but pruning grapevine is not my specialty. So anyway, so I often will get, people will give me their prunings, and then I actually make the rounds, this part, I twist them around each other, like in late winter or early spring for the following Christmas. So if you have that kind of forethought, or if you're pruning back your vines and you're thinking, I should just make a wreath with this at Christmas time, it's a good option. And then, you know, like then it makes it also potentially compostable if you wanted to put it in your compost. That being said, I will say an unfortunate aspect of wreath making, where in the skill set that I have involves hot glue gun. So this one, for example, because it has hot glue, is not compostable. But someday I will come up with other solutions. All right, so I just want to tell you a tiny bit about like the history of the wreath. I love this kind of mythology and ancient tie-in to our like modern living, you know, like why do people put, you know, evergreens in their house? Well, it harkens back to celebrating, you know, life and greenery and fertility in the deepest and darkest part of the year. We're about to approach the winter solstice. And the wreath in particular is can be traced back to kind of the idea of the laurel wreath. So, you know, the idea of victory. So the sun being victorious over the darkness. And also, I mean, it's the circle, right? And the circle is a symbol of fertility. I think you know about that. So anyway, so how fun that we get to carry on these ancient traditions, and that they feel so like integral, I think, to me at least, in a cold climate, to do this every winter. So I hope you can, I like to think in terms of like celebrating Christmas and the holidays in more of these like ancient terms and less in the like sort of modern commercialized terms. Okay, so once you've decided what size of base you're gonna have and what material. And I would also just say that like if you don't have any of these things, see what you have, look around. Like you can make a wreath out of pretty much any kind of bendable stick or piece of wire. I mean, I've made all kinds of things with what I have, or like a trip to the dump, you know, or the take it or leave it or the exchange, that would also help. But then you need to gather a few more materials. You need some snips. These are my favorite. They're Japanese. You can buy them on Amazon. Big fan. You need some greenery. So again, we are so lucky. I mean, we live in an evergreen paradise. So there's tons of choices. And I will just kind of give you my rundown of sort of what I recommend. And again, like take it or leave it and go out there and see what you have, you know. Randomly, I actually live in one of the very few places on Orcas Island that isn't full of evergreen trees. I live right on the beach and I have like beautiful aspens and huge sequoia, which is an evergreen, but it's incredibly pokey. It's like really sharp. So don't recommend sequoia. So I had to go forage these in the forest. And as I'm sure you're aware, if you walk around, there's tons of windfall, which is like when, you know, the wind comes by and knocks branches down. It's the perfect stuff. You don't have to cut down, you know, cut off branches and things like that, which I try not to do because, you know, not needed. So yeah, so greenery. So there's tons of choices. There's in the forest around here, there are tons of hemlock and Doug fir are the sort of major players. And those to me are really the easiest and the best to use for this kind of project. Hemlock is nice because it's just really verdant and like brighter green, but it's like more sort of flat. So you need a lot more if you're just doing hemlock. Oh, and cedar, of course. How could I forget? Cedar. Cedar is also great. But again, similarly to hemlock, because it's so flat, to make like a nice fluffy wreath, you got to have a lot of it. So that's why I really think that Doug fir is the, where is the Doug fir? Doug fir is sort of like the best and easiest thing to use when it comes to making this kind of thing. And you can always use a mix. I mean, right here, I have a mix of hemlock and Doug fir. You could also use, you know, if you have fancier things, you could use noble fir or spruce or anything like that. I would kind of steer clear of sequoia because it's pokey, and I would steer clear of pine because it's like sappy, but you know, whatever floats your boat. Yeah, so you can go out there and do some foraging for some windfall, or you know, if you have some branches at your house that you're like, I need to kind of cut these back, trim these back anyways, it's perfect. And then once you've done that, you need to sort of cut a larger branch into smaller, manageable chunks. So of course I don't have an example here, but you know, a branch is going to have many of these smaller bits coming off, and you're going to want to take some time before you get started to snip off smaller bits. And I make a big box of them, so they're all ready, they're all sitting there and for when I'm ready to go. So yeah, so you've collected your base, you've collected some evergreens, you've got your snips, you also need some wire. Again, it's like, if you have wire sitting around, just use it. No need to go buy new stuff, but it is nice to have the green wire because it does blend in. Otherwise you have to do some kind of work to get it to hide in there a little bit sometimes. They sell this at the hardware store. It's just called green enameled floral wire. There's a lot in here. You could do a lot of wreaths. So, or other things. I mean, I use this all the time for all kinds of stuff. So, so you need some wire. And again, I like to have wire on a roll because you could, you know, they do sell single bits of wire, like a whole bunch of them. This is a little easier for constructing wreaths. And so, oh, by the way, feel free to, like, if you have a question or comment, just type it into the chat. I can kind of read them and I can address them, or we can also address them at the end. So I just don't want to yammer away if someone's like, wait, I don't Um, okay. Oh, and the last thing that we need, or actually two more things, is some like decorative elements. So again, you know, look around, look in your garden, look in along the beach, or in the, you know, in the ditches. There are so many interesting, beautiful dried bits of like teasels and, you know, Queen Anne's lace and seed pods, and, you know, there's like a never ending amount of things that you could put on a wreath. And I happen to really enjoy doing fragrant wreaths. Fragrance is just like a really important part of my work, just in general, and my interest. So today I have from my garden, I have some rosemary, I have some sage, just sitting around here. I also have like some bay. I'm not sure I'm going to add it, but bay is just a wonderful addition to wreaths, I think. Very fragrant. Of course, there's the classic holly, and that's also a great addition. I've also dehydrated oranges. Here, I'll show you one real quick. With this one's fun. This one has, you know, dehydrated oranges and cinnamon sticks and bay, and then some straw flower. But I mean, really, it's you know, pick your fancy, figure out what you like, what looks good to you, what you have available, you know. Oh, and the other thing that I really love is dried alliums. So if you have decorative alliums, or I guess even just regular old alliums that you let go to flower, these are just so magical for Christmas decorations in general. I mean, you don't even need to do anything to them. They're just like, they look like little fireworks. So, so yeah, there's tons of choices. All right, so let's see here. So we have all our materials, we're ready. And because once you sort of get started, I would say wrapping, you want to kind of have your box of greens and your snips and everything ready, because it's kind of hard to sort of stop in the middle. So what I'm going to say is that is helpful, especially if you're a person who, you know, like mobility is hard, or you just like, you know, you want to make it really easy on yourself. I want to be this person, but I'm not usually. Is you make little bundles. So you've got your box of like smaller bits, you know, like I think like maybe hand size makes sense. And then you start making little piles that are pretty similar in size. And this one I've got a little bit of both hemlock and Doug fir, and I've got sort of like little piles, and I could make 15 little piles, and then I would be super efficient at actually this part of it. But I would say that it's pretty straightforward. Oh man, of course now my wire is all messed up. That's not gonna work. Well, I don't know what happened to my wire, but I will explain how it works. And then I have a finished version here, because I thought that you probably didn't want to watch me wrap this for like 15 minutes. That would not be that interesting. But basically what I would say is you take your bundle and you lay it down, and then you take your wire and you wrap it around. I mean, and I would say you don't need to wrap it around more than twice. Sometimes I don't even bother doing it twice. Sometimes I just do it once. And on the back, I would twist it, you know, around to secure it. And then as I go, I'm kind of like having my hands on the bundle and I'm grabbing the next bundle once I've secured it, and I'm placing it just sort of overlapping. So you can't see the end of the first bundle. So it's pretty straightforward. The trick is just like handling the wire and the bundles so that you have a good rhythm, and not, and not letting go of the tension. So if you make a bunch of wreaths, your hands are pretty tired, I will tell you. But one, like it's actually remarkably, it's remarkably easy. And the floral wire, it's pretty bendy. So it does actually adhere pretty well. So that is how you would get just basically the greenery on there. I would also recommend that, before you do anything else, while it's just greenery, like this one, I would put a hanger, I would take a little piece of wire and make a little circle, and make a little hook to hang it, because it's helpful when you're decorating to know where the top and the bottom is, because these are handmade things. They're not perfect. They're what size of wire works best. So this is 10-pound wire. And it just, if you go to I bought this at Ace here at Amorcus, it's just called green enameled floral wire, kind of standard. But again, like, use what you have. I mean, I wouldn't use a super thick, heavy, fencing wire, but anything else I think would be fine. Because, I mean, you can't see the wire. Like, if you do it correctly, everything is overlapped and you won't be able to really see any wire. So anyway, so we put all the greenery in. When we've got, the other thing I want to just mention, I forgot to let you know this, but when you get to the end, you're kind of like tucking that last bundle down into behind the first one. And if it looks kind of weird, or there's like a space, or you can't quite get it to look like that you're happy with it, that's the spot you put the ribbon. That's just the spot that you cover up, so don't worry about it too much. So anyways, so this is one that I made this morning, and I didn't quite finish it because I wanted to show you that. Let's scoot back so you can see it. It's kind of wonky, right? It's not perfect. It's not a perfect circle. But this is an opportunity to sort of look at it from far away. And first of all, maybe like figure out where your top is. Like, I have one pine cone here, so maybe I want that to be like kind of off center bottom, like that. And then I give it a little haircut. So I just sort of take my snips and I just see where it could use a little less greenery. Like, that guy is sticking out. That guy's sticking out. Yeah. And like, again, I would always recommend, like, just embrace the uniqueness of the things you create. Like, a machine didn't make this. I made this. I want it to look handmade. I don't want it to look too perfect. So yeah, so once I've given it a little haircut and I'm feeling, I'm gonna give it one more little haircut here, feeling good about the way of the shape of the circle. I'm like, yeah, okay, that looks pretty nice. I'm ready to add some decoration. And of course, there are ways that you can, and if you wanted to, you can wire your items right on with your bundles. So if you have items like things that have long stems. Like I could have actually done it with these long stemmed. Can you tell us more about our snips? My snips are, great question. They're called, it says called Sakagen, Sakagen. And they're from Japan. They're like sort of rubber handles with ceramic. They're amazing. They're like $22 on Amazon. I'm a huge fan. I mean, the Felcos are nice, but they're so big and heavy on my hands that like using Felcos all day will really not feel great. These are really light. They're really easy to use. They're really sharp when you first get them. And if you lose them in the garden, which I do all the time, you can order some more. But anyways, I just wanted to say that, you know, if you're really feeling committed to not using hot glue, there you go. Thanks. They come up really easily on Amazon. If you're really committed to not using hot glue and you'd like to like compost your wreath, or you just have the time to fiddle with it, you can totally either like, you know, add what you want to decorate your wreath with on top of your bundle, like so, and wire it in that way. And that works fine. Or if you have elements that are smaller, I really think that hot glue is just the easiest solution. I don't love it. It's plastic in the world. And there are ways that people make wreaths with like chicken wire and moss, and that is like a way that people secure things together without using plastic or wire, or well, I guess that is wire, but without using hot glue. I have not delved into that a lot. I'd like to. It's more work, and it's making wreaths is a big endeavor. Hand tying wreaths, that is a big endeavor. One of these days I'll get a machine that just clamps. You just press your foot down and it clamps, and that will be the then I will have a lot more time on my hands. Okay, so we've given our beautiful wreath a haircut, and we're gonna start putting some items on it. We have our hook on the back telling us where the top and the bottom is. If you'd like to add like a big bow of some kind, which is like a very typical thing that you could put on a wreath that looks really nice, I would do it now, because it's really hard to place the bow straight and like at the bottom, or wherever you want it, it's on the top. After you've decorated it, you'll have to like take things off and adjust things, and it's just easier to work around it from the beginning. So you can of course, again, like you can of course go so many directions with the ribbon front. The kind of typical Christmassy ribbon on a wreath are it's ribbon with wire, like along the edges, to keep it sort of to keep it like, you know, fluffy looking. So you can find that anywhere, you know, craft store or the exchange. That's where I find my stuff. And there are tons of YouTube videos out there to show you step by step how to make these like really intricate or simple ribbons, or, you know, bows. Yeah, it's not really, I do sometimes put them on there for fun, but I really prefer sort of a more natural look. So I have silk ribbon that I like to add, that, you know, you put on the bottom and it sort of flutters. This won't really flutter. This will stay pretty straight, but it's up to you. Like, look around, see what kind of ribbon you have, start there. Doesn't have to have a ribbon. It's just kind of a typical thing to do. You can also do the really, I love this look, which is the ribbon as the hanger, like it's a visible hanger on the top. And that also looks really nice. So up to you. Yeah, I think that's on the ribbon front. I think that's all I'll leave you with. I was thinking for this one, I have, because I'm just not a traditionalist particularly. I have this really pretty green silk ribbon, and I'm gonna just tie to the bottom so it sort of like flutters in the wind. I'm gonna do that really quick, and then, and I guess that there's somebody who gets to have this wreath, and I don't know who it is, but I think it's the raffle winner, so that's kind of fun. But yeah, you can kind of see that will just hang down, and then like when a breeze comes by, it'll look really nice. Okay, so the next step will be get your hot glue gun. That's what I'm going to use to secure my stuff, my decorative items on my wreath. And I would say that when you're picking things, it's nice to like look at it. Like I often will like place my items sort of around the wreath. So, sort of, I don't know if you can tell what I'm doing here, placing them there and then sort of rearranging them, because, you've got a circle and you want it to look, not necessarily even per se, but like not, you want them to be evenly distributed, so I like to do that first, because then I don't kind of get messed up and have to like, because once it's hot glued, it's on there. Like you don't want to have to readjust it after that. So, I'm looking at these and I'm noticing that they're pretty huge compared to my wreath. So maybe I'll just stick with one. Yeah, so I'm going to take little bundles similarly to when I did evergreens. Here's a little guy of rosemary and sage. And you can use a little hot glue to hot glue them together. You can use a little wire, whatever you have, just to kind of get them to stick. And then I'm going to give them a little sort of circle of hot glue, and then I'm going to sort of nestle them into between some of the bundles of evergreen so that you can't see the base and the hot glue. It's a little tricky to not get hot glue strands everywhere. I don't know if you know about hot glue. It's a mess. Like you got to be a little cautious. And what I do to kind of keep that at bay is I do my little hot glue, whatever, and then I kind of like go around it to kind of get all the strands off, and then I nestle it in there, and that will, be the beginning of my decoration going around. And then you can do little bundles tucked in around. That's a nice, easy way of decorating. You can also do like little floating elements. So I have all these straw flowers that I grew and I dried. And this is a nice example of like sort of more of a floating element. So I've got the holly tucked in, and then I have sort of floating bells of Ireland. I don't know if you can really see it. Bells of Ireland and straw flowers, hot glued and kind of just floating around. But it's kind of up to you and what your vision is for your wreath. The other nice thing I would say is that, you know, something like this, the elements of like the white on the green really stand out. So it's not, you know, we don't live in the city where, you know, if you put a wreath on your door, people are like seeing it often from far away. Or like, you know, they pass by on the street or something and they look at people's wreaths and their decorations. And we don't really have that usually, you know, unless you live in town, I guess. So this wreath is like for your enjoyment, right? It's got to be like something that you, every time you see it, it's like, oh, I made that. Oh, I love it. Oh, it's so cool. So, so really you can go any direction, but it is nice to think about contrasting colors. And I find that dried elements that are sort of like this brown, light brown, tan color look really nice on evergreens. So I don't know if you can really see it from there, but it really pops out, and so does red, you know. So so berries. I didn't harvest any berries today, but on other wreaths I've done this year, I've done rose hips and hawthorn and holly, of course. I would say maybe I would be careful with the crabapple, because crabapple, they rot and then the birds want to eat them. So unless you want a bird like pecking at your wreath, which, you know, I guess could happen anyways if you have too many seeds or something on it. Yeah, crab apples are a little bit tricky. But there's tons, winterberry, not winterberry, snowberry. Yeah, there's tons of possibilities, I guess, on that front. I'm trying to think if there's anything else I really wanted to share with you guys about wreath making. Let's see. Yeah, I guess the things that I would say are, when you're harvesting and foraging, you know, it's important to be thoughtful. I mean, you guys are all gardeners, so I don't need to like, I don't need to proselytize the idea of thoughtful foraging. I'm sure you all know all about it. But yeah, just being cautious about invasive species, not touching or utilizing invasive species in your wreaths. I think just morally speaking, ethically speaking, is important. I am tested with this every year because I don't know if you guys know that. I think it's not clematis. I can't remember what it is right now, but it's that vine that has the puffball. It's like really, I think it's pretty invasive. It's like all over the roadsides here. And it's a vine. And in the winter time, it has that beautiful, like snowy down. And every year I'm like, I want to make something with that. And I say, no, don't. Oh, that's, yeah, exactly. Clematis vitabula. I'm pretty sure it is, isn't it? Like invasive, or at least it doesn't look, it doesn't look like I should be utilizing it. But yeah, things like that, you know, you want to be really careful about. You don't want to add to those kinds of problems in our little tiny ecosystems. And also just, you know, when you're going through the forest and you're like snipping things, to just make sure to, you know, when you cut branches, that you cut them at junctions, that you know, all of those kinds of, to us gardeners, common sense things. But I think other people may not think in those terms. And then, like, I mean, to be honest with you, on a spiritual note, I am a person who really sort of in the Robin Wall Kimmerer tradition, I try to say thank you to the plants, because I do grow tons of things. I put a lot of energy out there into the earth, but I also take, you know, frequently. And so just, I try to say thank you in my own ways as much as I can. Yeah. And then, you know, I just want to say one more thing, which is that I have a little business here on top of teaching, and it's called Fabled Flora. You can check out my website. It's Fabled Flora. That's FABLED Flora, FLORA.com. And I will be starting very soon to put online information for spring. I'm calling it this year a flower club, but previously it was a flower CSA. It's just the same thing. I'm just calling it something different. But you can order ahead of time. You buy ahead of time, either 4 or 8 weeks of flowers. And then starting in kind of early to mid-April, we get started, and then you receive a beautiful market bouquet made by me, grown by me. And once a week you can come, you pick it up. I haven't quite decided where pickup will be yet, but last year it was at the Lum farm stand. Might be there again this year, I'm not sure. And yeah, you get to have some like gorgeous, unusual flowers for your table. And usually it's like before most people's gardens have like really woken up, because I am not forcing, but I'm doing ranunculus and anemones like in tunnels. And what is your method of dehydrating citrus? Okay, I'll tell you in just a second. So anyways, we have, so it's gonna be really fun. I just finished planting about 1,100 tulips, and I have about 500 ranunculus and about 200 anemones in the ground. So it's going to be a really beautiful spring. So I really hope that, you know, if it's not for you, I know you guys all have gardens. So, you know, I don't know if you're my target audience exactly, but you can tell other people about it and just kind of spread the message that there are beautiful local flowers being grown here on Orcas and on Lopez. My dear friend, Lindsay, is doing basically what I'm doing, and her flower farm is called Dancing Flower Farm. And you should look that up because she's great too. I will answer your question. Citrus. You can use all kinds of citrus to dehydrate for wreaths. You can do lemons, you can do blood oranges, look really cool. You can do just regular oranges. I have not done limes, but I'm assuming you could do limes. And what all you need to do for that is that you need to just slice them pretty thin, like not paper thin, because that will go, I mean, you could do it pretty, not paper thin, but as thin as you can get it with a knife. You don't want to use a mandolin. I think that's too thin actually. And then I put it on some parchment paper on a baking sheet in the oven. I guess if you had a dehydrator, you could dehydrate them, but I don't have one. So I just put it right in my oven, and I put it on like the lowest setting possible, which for me is, I think, 150. And because I have a convection oven, there's a fan, which really helps. If you don't, I think it's a similar process. It just might take longer. But yeah, I just leave them there for a long time, like 5 hours, 6 hours. At some point you kind of check in there and flip them over, you know, so that they both evenly dehydrate. But it's kind of incredible once you do it. Those things last forever. I made a garland of dehydrated citrus for a friend, like, gosh, maybe 5 or 6 years ago. And she hung it in her window. It's still there. Still looks great. So that's pretty neat. And you know, some of these things, evergreen wreaths, unfortunately, don't last forever. They do last for a long time if you leave them outside. because our climate here is so nice and cool and moist that if you leave them outside, they will last a long time. If you bring them inside, they won't last very long because they'll dry out and they'll get all crinkly and they'll lose all their needles. But yeah, if you leave them outside, and then, you know, if you make things with dried flowers, like this, these, you could do this. This lasts again for like years and years. So that would be another option too. Maybe I'll have to do a dried flower presentation one of these days. Okay, I think that I've come to the end of what I'd like to share with you guys. If anybody has any questions or like wants to chat about anything else, I'm happy to tell you what I know. Thank you so much.
Seeing no questions. Thank you, Christy. I found myself thinking about you in the classroom as I was listening to you and about multitasking. I think we had agreed at the beginning that you didn't need to check for extraneous things. I think probably if you're in the classroom with kindergartners, you can't do anything but check what's happening in the environment constantly.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, I can't even finish a sentence without micromanaging or managing, you know, 3 other things happening in my eyesight. So yeah, you know, honestly, it's not so hard to
it's such fun. And it also, the other thing that I thought about was hands, because you talked several times about how much work this was to, and your hands getting tired and thinking about what you would choose to use as a result. So again,
I think that, you know, for just in general for what I do, but also for all gardeners, like you gotta really think carefully about how and when and where you put your energy and your strength, you know, because man, oh man, I was out there, I did a holiday fair on Saturday at the winery, and that was wonderful and exciting. And then I was out there digging in the mud on Sunday because I thought it was going to snow maybe, and I thought I got to get this done, and yeah, my body wasn't happy. So take care of yourself, especially your hands. These are your tools, you know, like when you're a gardener, you got to do all the things you can to take care of them.
Well, I'm looking very, very much, I'm looking forward to picking up those wreaths later today and passing them on to people. So thank you for that.
You're welcome.
I really appreciate what you've done and being here today. I'm going to switch topics just for a minute and encourage people to think about what's coming up. This Saturday, organized by our wonderful people on Lopez Island, and Bill Bickley, and David Montgomery will present Soil Science, Restoring Life to Our Soil, which is sort of a nice continuation in a sense of what Emmy was talking about being good stewards. And I'm very much looking forward to that presentation too. And I can ask you to look forward to the coming year and dates for you to save. Between the 2 clubs, we are providing 6 virtual presentations, January through May, and 5 will be the Thursday, Wednesday of each month at 10:30 again, and also will be supported by our wonderful Orcas Library. The 6th will be on Saturday, March the 19th. And those, for more information about those, you can look at both club websites and also those club newsletters. Coming most recent or soonest will be Carol Miles from WSU Extension Center, who's going to be presenting in the 3rd Wednesday in January on growing vegetable crops from seeds. So we're looking forward to seeing you there again and to those presentations. Once again, Emmy, thank you very much. And now I'll turn over to Dixie.
All righty, Emmy, you've done it again. I'm inspired. my multi-talented educator, floral designer, I'm gazing out at my garden. And just this morning, I was saying, boy, I have a lot of work to do. I've got to get rid of that stuff. And now all I see is art. I see a wreath in my future. So I have said I'm not a crafter, but you've changed my mind. I think I could be a crafter. And I do have good boots. I'm going to go out there in the mud and find stuff and create something. I'll keep you posted on that. So thank you so kindly, Emmy. I appreciate your talent and your time and your spirituality. As we were saying, this Saturday is all about soil, not dirt, soil, but they are calling it the Dirt Trilogy, which tells the tangled story of humanity's relationship with two of nature's greatest wallflowers, soil and the microbial world. So for scientists and people who just love dirt, soil, call it what you like. We look forward to seeing you on Saturday, 11 o'clock.
Great. Well, thank you all for coming today. Thank you, Emmy. You've given us a lot of great tips and inspiration for getting out into the world and collecting. I love the idea of not cutting down limbs, but collecting all those windfalls, because we all have some of that. And cleaning out some of the spent growth from our gardens to decorate with is such great ideas. I've already ordered my snips. So thank you for that. And we'll see you all at our next program. Thank you, Orcas Library. Thank you, Carol. And thank you all for coming. We'll see you next time.